Well, hello and welcome once again to the Waters and Stanton video channel. My name's Peter Waters and my ham radio call sign is Golf 3 Oscar Juliet Victor. I'm so glad you could join us. This time it's a video not about building aerials or equipment. This is more about some updates which I wanted to bring to your notice. I've done a couple of snippets of videos which I put together in this video and to give you some updates. So without further ado, let's get on with the updates. This really is by way of a news item, but first of all I'd like to thank the members of the Thames Amateur Radio Group, TARG, who interviewed me a couple of weeks ago for one of their club nights. It was done over a sort of a Zoom arrangement, and we had a very good evening there. I was chatting for well over an hour, put under the light, and answered all sorts of questions relating both to the company and also to ham radio in general. Very enjoyable evening, and I must say a very well organised club. So anybody that is in the Essex area and is not a member of a club, or perhaps you want to join another club as well, go onto the internet, put in TARG, T-A-R-G, Thames Amateur Radio Group, and there's contact details there, and I'm sure they'd be more than happy to talk to you and enrol you as a member. I would recommend, if you can, to join your local radio club, because at the moment, with the current situation of social distancing and some cases still being locked down, it's a chance to keep in touch with fellow hams. Now, when I started off in amateur radio, the first thing I did was join the local radio club, and it was a great help to me because I knew nothing about the hobby at all. Now, a lot of you may have been in the hobby for a long time and you think, well, I don't belong to a radio club. Do I need to? I don't want to go to meetings, it's so and so. Well, of course, at the moment, most of the meetings are held using Zoom or some other similar platform or on the local repeater, so you actually don't need to go. And the thing about a club is that it's full of people who know things that you don't know. Now, I'm not talking about radio, but sometimes you want a bracket put up on the wall, or you want to know how to do this and do that. And you've got somebody there that's an engineer, another one that's a carpenter and so forth. And because you're in the same hobby, you don't mind helping out. You may have an electrician there. You want something done that's not really connected with radio, but the electrician says, look, I'll do it for you. I'll do it for your cost, that sort of thing. Joining a radio club makes you feel part of the local ham radio community. It keeps you in touch with what's going on. And as you get older, sometimes you need some help to do something, and it's really nice to belong to a radio club. Radio clubs in recent times have been suffering with falling membership, and I guess that's because there's pressure on all sorts of things to do, and if nothing else, just to sit home and watch the TV. But I think in the last few months we've seen that we do need to keep in touch, and I think from the ham radio point of view, it's quite important to keep in touch with the local hams. And as I say, if you don't belong to a ham radio club, give it some thought. And if you don't know where your local ham radio club is, well, check the RSGB website. So they've got a list of all the affiliated ham radio clubs there, and I'm sure you'll find one that's near you. And it doesn't have to be that near, because you don't need to go to that meeting every time. So that's my little bit about ham radio clubs. The hobby will thrive if more of you join the amateur radio club. You'll get more fun out of it. You'll interact with local hams. You'll probably meet hams that you didn't even know existed, because if you don't operate on the same bands, you'll really never come across each other. There we are. So give it some thought. And my recommendation is that if you can, join your local amateur radio club. As a company, Waters and Stanton Limited have been going for 47 years, coming up for 48 years actually. and it's quite a long time. A lot of water's gone under the bridge. But you know, during that time, we've advertised in the press and in the major magazines, we've advertised without a break, or at least in one magazine we've advertised without a break. So that's a pretty good record. And of course, advertising for our business is very important because it lets the ham radio fraternity know what's around, what the prices are, what new equipment we've got, etc., etc. So it's a good vehicle. But you know, recently I was talking to a couple of guys, and then I had a phone call and another phone call, and it seemed to be quite amazing. I had these phone calls, and when I was talking to them, they said, well, we don't see your advert because we don't get the magazine. Well, of course, there are two magazines on the newsstand, and there's Radcom. But they got none of these, and so they didn't see the adverts. And I thought, wait a minute, that really is wrong, because if we're advertising, we really want to, as many people as possible, see our adverts. And then I was looking at some figures, and well, I suppose it wasn't amazing really. The printed magazines are declining in readership, and over the last 10 years they've more than halved, and it's still going that way. And I suppose it's really not difficult to understand, because there's so much things online now, and you've got Facebook, you've got Instagram, and you've got Twitter and all these other things, YouTube, which you're watching now. And these are all vehicles that carry a lot of information, a lot of immediate and up-to-date information. And so I suddenly thought, wait a minute, if we're advertising and this advert in this magazine is not being read by, well, let's be generous, at least half, maybe more than half the amateur fraternity, something's wrong. And so we've decided to carry out an experiment. What we're going to do is we're going to place our magazine adverts on our website as well as a PDF, and you can click on them and download them. And the good thing is that these adverts will go onto our website as we pass the copy date. Now, the copy date of a magazine is usually about 2 weeks in advance. So in fact, what you will be seeing is an advert that is nearly 2 weeks in advance of when it appears in the magazines. But the other good news is that if you don't get a ham radio magazine, you can see our adverts nevertheless. And that is a real plus point for us, and I hope for you, because it's only right that if we spend, you see, putting an advert together is very time consuming. Of course, advertising doesn't come cheaply either. You'd fall over if I told you what a page of advertising costs in some of the magazines these days, and it's quite frightening. So another reason for making it widely available to you, the readers, or the non-readers, should I say. I mean, when you see the finished article in the magazine, you probably gloss over and think, oh, it's an advert, you read through it and so forth. But there's an awful lot of work that goes into that. The graphics and the layout have to be done. The prices and all the information has to be checked and rechecked, and then it has to be submitted. And we try to bring the changes on our adverts. We don't do it completely in every advert, but we're continually updating our adverts. And that all takes an awful lot of time. And that in itself is a good reason for letting as many people as possible read our adverts. Now, as I say, this is really an experiment, and we'll try it for a few months and see what response we get and how it gets received. And I'm sure we should get some feedback from customers on it. Well, there we are. A combination of amateur radio clubs and advertising. So it was really a news video, this, rather than anything practical. But the next video will be practical. It's going to be hints, tips and tricks using the end-fed half-wave antenna. Some ideas that you can try out for yourself and have a bit of fun before we get into the winter, because as I record this, it's pretty chilly outside, but I believe there is some more reasonable weather to come before.
we head to the winter. Anyway, as usual, thanks for watching this video. Hope you enjoyed it. Have fun with your ham radio and speak to you soon. Bye for now.